Yeah, so kia ora koutou to everyone. Thanks for coming along, and obviously thanks to Kate and Alice for the invite. Yes, I'm Tim. I run a company called Grow Good, based in good old Otatahi, Christchurch, and fundamentally we specialise in helping companies navigate the B-Corp Impact Assessment to be able to do it, get through it more efficiently, quickly, with a bit more fun, dare I say, because it can be quite a dry online assessment tool. So that's pretty much all you need to know about me. Next slide, please, whoever's running the slideshow. So what is a B Corporation? Will that be a good place to start? So B corporations are this new form of business that seek to balance purpose and profit. So rather than solely focusing on maximizing shareholder return and maximizing profit, they must consider the impact of their operations on their community, their workers, the planet, their customers, and all other stakeholders. And it's fundamentally a independent verification of a company's social and environmental performance. So to get the B Corp certification, you go through an initial self-assessment, which is where we help people just navigate that self-assessment. And once you've gone through that assessment, and you need to score a minimum of 80 out of 200 points on that assessment, once you've scored over the 80 mark, you submit that assessment then for independent verification with the team at B Lab. So B Lab, a bit like PAN, are a not-for-profit organisation who run the audit side of the process. So you go through this independent verification, and if you're successful getting through the audit process, you will then be able to demonstrate that your organisation is operating to the highest levels of transparency and accountability when it comes to your social and environmental performance. And the million-dollar question I always get asked is, what does the B stand for? Well, the B stands for benefit. So beyond just making a financial return to your shareholders, what benefit is your business providing to people and planet? Next slide, please. Cool. So beyond it being, I guess, a certification framework, and there's quite a few of those out there, it is, like I said, a verification of claims, and I guess, yeah, the good that you're doing. I think most people who would be listening into this webinar would be well aware of terms like greenwashing. That's one of the reasons why I really like B Corp, because you can make claims, you can say that you're doing stuff, but unless it can be audited and independently verified by a third party, then you don't really get to make those claims through the B Corp lens. So it's pretty, pretty rigorous on that side. Beyond that, it is also a movement in a community of like-minded businesses. We're just over about 115 B Corps in New Zealand currently. There's about 7,000 businesses globally who are B Corp certified. And they all have this one common goal of being the best for the world, not the best in the world. So a like-minded community of businesses all pushing for the same outcome fundamentally. And then perhaps more importantly, it's a commitment. To get the B Corp certification is not that easy. About 30% of companies who start the journey actually get through and complete certification. But it's a commitment in that regard, but it's also a commitment for you as a business to say that, yeah, we are aiming to operate at the highest levels of impact as an organization. And lastly, it's an impact guide. So quite often we will find with most companies, there's a bunch of good stuff that you are doing in your business. So let's collect that and let's get that verified. But the B Corp assessment is a really, really useful tool particularly if you're early on in your sustainability journey and you don't really know where to start, or if you feel like you're at an advanced level and you want to step up and get that verification. But it's a really easy to use framework in terms of understanding at the high level, where are we doing good, but as an impact guide, where could we look to do more good? And it's very just a useful framework to illuminate areas in your business that you perhaps just hadn't previously considered. Next slide, please. Cool. So looking at the B Corp assessment in a bit more depth, the B Corp assessment looks at your business across 5 main areas of governance, workers, community, environment, and then your customer model. So what is it that you're selling and how are you providing it into the market? Just can you go to the next slide? I can't remember what my next slide is off the top of my head. There we go. Cool. So looking at it in a bit more detail, I thought I was going to have this slide. looking across the 5 areas in a bit more detail. So the governance looks mainly at ethics and transparency. So who owns the business? Is it easy for someone to find out who owns the business? Or have you got 50 shell companies ending up in the Bahamas somewhere, and we don't actually really know who owns your business? Beyond financial reporting, are you doing social and environmental impact reporting? Do you have KPIs within the company? So are there people within the company who are responsible for monitoring social and environmental impact? The workers section looks, so in New Zealand, we typically score quite a few points. So yeah, I should just back up the track a bit. So to get B Corp certified, you need to score 80 out of 200 points on this self-assessment. So that's why there's numbers like the 8.1, the 30.6. So under the workers section, Kiwi companies typically score pretty well because we have what I would call favourable trade winds. So we have state-provided healthcare, state-provided superannuation, state-provided leave entitlement, sick leave entitlement, so on and so forth. So beyond compensation, which is where that would all be captured, the workers section really looks at workforce development. So opportunities for career path development, training, skill, on-the-job skills training, cross skills training, so on and so forth. Community, it kind of felt like they ran out of options as to where to put stuff, because it did feel like they sort of jammed quite a few things into community. So it looks at local job creation. It looks at diversity of ownership, management, and employees. It looks at charitable work that you do. So that could be volunteer work or pro bono, in kind, or cash donations that you might have made. And it also includes supply chain. So that's quite a chunky section for some, particularly companies with a product. And then the environment at the high level is inputs and outputs. So energy use, where do we get our energy from? How much waste are we producing? How much water are we using? And then, yeah, obviously emissions and other outputs that you might have. And then lastly, the customer section at the high level looks at, do we have customer guarantees, warranties? Are we tracking customer satisfaction? Are we checking customer outcomes long term? And so, like I said, the aim is to get 80 out of 200 points across the assessment. However, you will see around the bottom of the slides and on the right-hand side, as you're looking at the screen, there is the dark blue boxes with the light blue writing in. So the assessment actually has 2 levels. So the standard questions on the B Corp Impact Assessment are what are called operational questions. So whilst you're running your business, what are we doing above and beyond, basic requirements to provide more benefit to our stakeholders? The dark blue boxes indicate what are called an IBM, or an impact business model. And that's basically if you can demonstrate that you have gone out of your way to create more positive social or environmental impact in your business, then you get rewarded by, I guess, depending on your age range, it's either Super Mario bonus level, or it's kind of going, one client described it as Pokemon hunting. You're kind of looking for these little gold nuggets, these truffles where the higher points sit. So if you look at a company like Patagonia, they are about a 150 out of 200 points B Corp, so very high scoring B Corp. So they have unlocked a handful of impact business models. So just really quickly, under the governance one, for you to be a B Corp now, you have to unlock the mission lock IBM. And that basically means you need to update your constitution or other corporate governing document to include a stakeholder clause and a purpose clause, which basically states, in summary, whilst aiming to make profit, this company will have a higher purpose, and it will at all times consider the impact of its operations on all its stakeholders. So that's kind of coming into alignment with, in the UK, the Companies Act has been updated not so long ago to say that you can choose to consider those things, but B Corp going one step ahead and saying, no, you must consider those in all your decisions. Under the workers, the 2 that we typically see people get would be worker ownership. So basically 40% of the company has to be owned by employees, or a workforce development program. So providing pathways to employment for people who typically haven't had access to employment. So that could be people with a disability, for example. The community one, the 2 most common ones would be a fair trade supply chain, or what's called design to give, where basically you commit to giving away a significant proportion of either revenue or profits to a charity. The customer one, typically, so we unlock a customer impact business model because we are basically offering consulting advisory around businesses becoming better. So we unlock one under education. Other typical examples would be having a health-based product. So if you're selling into the healthcare system, typically that might unlock an impact business model. But really the crux of where, Kate and Alice can really help, and the planetary accounting model is under the environmental one. So the environmental impact business models, there's a handful of different ones actually, and there's also under the governance section, there's some ways where the Planetary Accounting Network team can really help you, because the key to successfully completing B Corp is A, to know that you're doing what you're doing, but B, is to be able to provide evidence that backs up the claims that you're making, and that's how you successfully get through the B Corp assessment. So if you just want to click to the next slide, whoever my slide guru is. So before we go on to that, so yeah, how to certify, like I say, you go through this process, you need to score 80 out of 200 points across the assessment, and away you go. So we'll blow through that one pretty quickly. So yeah, next slide, please. So just to finish off with, I've got some examples of actual questions from the impact assessment. So this is from the governance section. So there's a question before this, which basically says, and it's got multiple options. And one of the options is, do you do an impact report? And are you tracking social and environmental KPIs? So yes, well, if we are we tracking metrics that we've just chosen randomly, or have we done a materiality assessment? And if we have done a materiality assessment, have we identified and measured metrics on that assessment? Well then, and have we got performance targets? So you can see here that essentially what Kate and Alice and the team are offering is a relatively quick win to be able to go, well, yeah, actually we're capturing and measuring all this stuff, and we have done an assessment, and it was done by independent sources, and we have got science-based targets to work towards. If you go to the next one, this is just one of the examples of under the environmental impact business models, one of the environmental questions. Do you have an environmental management system? So are you tracking metrics that you need to be tracking, and have you done an assessment of your organization and how it operates in terms of environmental impact? So again, what the team are offering here, massive contribution towards helping you get some of these points. And then the next one, I think, is the one I was thinking about. Yeah. So again, have you done an environmental assessment or environmental product design? So again, yes, if you've been working with the team here, you'd be able to say, yeah, we've done an LCA equivalent. And possibly you would have done source reduction or toxicity reduction exercise as part of part of the work you might do. And again, you might review product materials design and the recyclability based on the outputs of the project. And then if we go down to the last slide, I think it's the last one I've got. So this is an example of one of the environmental impact business models. So resource conservation. So basically, if you can prove that one of your products is using less resources as compared to industry standards, then great, you can go and have a go at selecting for or going forward for an impact business model. However, can you prove that? And again, it's having that data, having that peer-reviewed data to be able to say, yeah, look, this is the industry standard for this type of product. We've been tracking and measuring our own data, and we can prove that, yes, we use less energy, less water. We've got less carbon, and we're using less water, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's just a really quick, brief overview and intro. Hopefully that all made sense. That's my last slide. Happy to take any questions or move on to whatever Kate's got planned for us next.